Struggling media giant Viacom is rolling out a strategy to firm up frayed relations with distribution partners by focusing attention on 6 key channel brands: Nickelodeon, Nick Jr., MTV, Comedy Central, BET, and Spike. Joining us to discuss is WSJ Media and Marketing Assistant News Editor Keach Hagey. Keach, welcome. So great to see you.
Good to see you.
So it seems that Viacom's plan here is to focus on the 6 channels that have done well so far and that it hopes will have the most growth potential. Is that right?
These are, in general, the strongest brands, but the key thing is strongest brands. So maybe they haven't performed the best necessarily in terms of ratings over the last few years. Some of them have, some of them haven't. But these are the brands that people know. These are the household names, and these are the brands that they think can survive in a future where the bundles are getting skinnier and there's room for fewer and fewer brands.
So these have name recognition, but they aren't necessarily performing well across the board.
They are generally the biggest.
Right,
They are the biggest. But MTV has struggled with ratings declines for 5 years, and a key strategy point for the new CEO, Bob Bakish, is to turn that around.
Right.
But the reason they're picking these big 6 is because they're big and because they're strong brands.
So this will also leave behind, though, other Viacom-owned channels such as TV Land and CMT. What will happen to those channels?
So these channels aren't going away. Okay. It's a question of focus. What they're going to be doing is focusing their content spending, especially for their big original splashy shows, on the big 6. So if you want to get a fancy show on, let's say right now Nashville is on CMT, that's a network show, expensive, $3 million an episode. If you want to get that kind of thing on a CMT, you're going to have to find a fancy way to finance it, which they have done with sharing some of the costs with Hulu right now. But they're not going to pay for big, expensive shows to go outside those big 6.
But how risky is this strategy in that it requires distributors to be willing to pay up for, a bundle that doesn't have a sports network?
Right. Well, this is Viacom's problem. They are the most expensive bundle of networks outside of those that have sports. And sports is really the most powerful leverage that you can have with distributors. So they're going to be facing some difficult negotiations going forward. And one of the tricky things they need to do long term is say, we're going to make these core networks so much better that you're going to be willing to pay more for them that will offset whatever declines in subscription fees they get from the smaller channels.
And then is relatively new CEO Bob Bakish the driving force behind this plan? And is this the biggest strategy to come forward after the merger with CBS didn't work out?
That's right. He's very new to the job. He's been at Viacom a long time, running their international business for 10 years, but he just was tapped as CEO at the end of last year, and he immediately got to work creating task forces and creating a turnaround plan that he's going to be unveiling publicly on Thursday with earnings.
And does this include some internal changes as well?
Right. He's also been restructuring the groups, essentially trying to keep the channels from competing with each other because they have some overlapping audiences, and so he's taken out some veteran players and consolidated things a little bit so that they can shift content and other resources across channels better.
Will this also cut costs in some places?
Sure, definitely it will. I mean, there are a lot of top positions that have already gone away, and people expect there to be more.
Now, we know that Sherry Redstone had a little bit of a tense relationship with former CEO Philippe Dauman. Do we know what kind of relationship she has with Bob Bakish?
By all accounts, from my sources, she has a really good one. He's really welcomed her into the process. She's the vice chairman of the board, so she's not running any day-to-day operations, but she appears with him when they open their Hollywood office. I think he, takes her advice and seeks her advice, which is a big change.
And it seems that she has certainly ascended into power. There's I guess, a very open example of that by the fact that she's moved into her 93-year-old father's former office in the Times Square Viacom building, correct?
Right. I mean, there's a great symbolism to that. Some people have said that Sherry is Sumner in a skirt. This is years ago. Right. She's not running it day to day, but she's there. She's paying a lot of attention. She's talking to their distribution partners. She's very materially engaged, as one source put it.
Absolutely. Well, it will be interesting to see how this strategy plays out. Keach Hagey, thank you so much for that.
Thanks for having me.